Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to this week's training. It is Tuesday morning, and we are talking mindful leadership and 5 traits or 5 qualities of mindful leaders and things that they might do a little bit differently to other leaders. So I know so many of you in this beautiful group are leaders and are really either moving from old positions in career into taking new career paths. You are starting new businesses. You're stepping up, getting even bigger and bolder and more visible in your current business. And so I really wanted to dive in today to these 5 things that mindful leaders tend to do differently. So we are going to dive right in just a minute. I just want to make sure that we are up and running in Rise, because when the Rise group came up for me this morning, it just looked a little bit different than usual in StreamYard. So as you're coming in, just go ahead and pop into the comments where you are and what kind of day you're having right now. Have you been outside? Have you been what has your day looked like so far? Maybe one word that lets us know what your day has been like so far. So for me, I just came off of a beautiful client call. We did some healing. We did some breath work. It was amazing. It was really beautiful. Then my sons came inside and yep, we're up. Okay, great. My sons came inside and poor little Koa, he has I don't know if he's fractured a little bit of his hand or if it's just really sore because Ocean accidentally slammed it into a drawer. So that was us this morning. So let me know what's been happening in your day and how are things? How is everything at your end? Okay, good. We are up and running. Okay, awesome. So yes, I just want to dive in today. It's short, it's sweet, and I really just want to get down to the nuts and bolts, answer any questions that you guys might have, and just to give you maybe some ideas on how you can show up in your day and add things to your routine that may serve you in the mindful leader that you are. All right, so let us get started. So 5 things that mindful leaders do differently. And before I really dive into these 5 things, obviously there are so many things that we do on a daily basis when we want to show up mindfully, when we want to really encourage other people to, shine the light for them and encourage them to also show up for themselves and for the things that matter the most to them as well. And that's what you guys do as these fearless, mindful leaders. That's what you do. You are not only showing up 100% for yourself, but you're actually shining the light and in doing so, giving other people permission to do the same thing, to follow their dreams, to stand up for their beliefs, to really go all okay, so let's dive in, guys. Let's make this short, sweet, and fun. Come. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
So the first thing that I wanted to touch on today is the ability to really forgive.
Look, numbers. Can I show you something?
What's that?
Ocean.
Yeah, you can see Ocean. Do you want to
Hello.
look at this? Hi. Do you know there are other people there too and they're watching? So the first thing that maybe mindful leaders do a little bit differently to other leaders is that they know how to forgive. And when I say forgive, I don't just mean forgiving others, but just being really mindful of how we're showing up with ourselves throughout the day. So it may just mean, and in the Rejuvenate program, we talk about this idea of talking to ourselves as though we are coming from...
Can you find my picture, Mommy?
Sure, darling. There you are. Talking to ourselves as though we're coming from, this real place of mothering. So we want to talk to ourselves from that part of us. And in the Rejuvenate program, we call it the wise, loving adult. And so we really want to come at ourselves with a whole bunch of compassion and a whole bunch of love and a whole bunch of care. And sometimes leadership can have us sort of really pushing forward, and really we have to do this and we need to get this done. And sometimes we think, to be a really powerful leader, we have to show up with this strength and this push. And so you guys know, like we talk a lot about this in the Rise group, is this finding this space where we can actually do things with ease and with grace. And so when it comes to the mindful leader, being able to really see ourselves in the light that we would see others. If we make a mistake, really bringing in that wise, loving adult and saying, hey, awesome, we're failing forward, right? We're moving up. We're making a difference. We're obviously creating impact when things are changing and when, we're making mistakes and we're learning and we're redesigning what things look like, recreating. And so we want to have a think about, like, when we're in that space, right? Are we coming from a place of constriction and from the conditioned self in this kind of pushing forward, pushing into leadership, or pushing ourselves to a place where we might think that we need to be, right? Or are we coming from this beautiful place of faith and reassurance and the support that we have, our internal support, our spiritual support, our higher self support, and then really allowing ourselves to just be. And we'll talk about perfectionism in a little while, because that usually gets the better of us as well. And so the first thing that mindful leaders often do a little bit differently to other leaders is they bring in this other side of themselves that's very compassionate toward themselves, right? So instead of this really big push to get there, it's like, I made a mistake, or, and we don't even really call them mistakes in Rise. It's like, we're just moving forward. We're learning so that we can move forward. But when things don't go exactly as planned, we can bring a lot of compassion to ourselves and the circumstance. And that really allows us to learn and grow and to move and to become even more authentic than we were, showing up in the first place. And so the second way that we can, show up as a mindful leader, and that mindful leaders might do a little bit differently, is to really show gratitude, right? And that's, we talk about gratitude in, in the good times and in the bad times, or, however it may be as your day pans out, that we want to bring gratitude in at different times. But is gratitude a concrete component? And are you bringing it into your daily routine? So we have a morning routines and an evening routines training that I did in the Rise group. Rebecca, maybe you could just pop the links into the comments for everyone, because we talked about, and in the Next Level You workshop, we really talked about this vibrational scale and where we are at. And I think one thing that mindful leaders really know how to do is bring in what they want. Like, really, the manifestation side of this the conversation gets really juicy.
Look at those numbers.
Yeah, because they know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Because they really know that their position on the vibrational scale matters, right? Like, how we show up in our daily life. And it's not just to jump into that particular vibration for a moment and think about our dreams and think about our ambitions of what we want to achieve, but our ability to stay there. And so one thing that mindful leaders really know is that gratitude is a really easy way to get there, to get to a higher vibration. And we don't even have to use gratitude, but it could be, I'm going to choose a better thought. It might be as easy as that, something that you could do today. I choose to choose a better thought, I choose to think a better way. I choose to raise my vibration, because I know that it's not just gratitude, right? So it is about this vibration. So how can you shift and get to that level, to wherever it is that you need to be, and with what emotion? So it might just be that instead of getting into that anxiety, which is what we talked about a lot last week, we might actually just move toward a little more grounding. That might be sort of a medium kind of feeling for us. And then, you know, moving up the scale into gratitude and bliss and joy and all those wonderful things that, you know, we want to be there. But are we there all the time? But how can we shift just a little bit to get further up that scale? And then the third thing that mindful leaders tend to do a little bit differently to others is that perfection goes out the door completely. And so I know for me, like, put your hand up in the comments if you are a recovering perfectionist, because that is me. You know, down to everything when I was younger. It was down to what I wore and how I moved my body and how my hair looked. And like, I don't even have makeup on today. I would usually do that for you. And then it flowed over into my work. So when I was in
Mommy, look, I found my phone.
Oh, fantastic. You're going to call Granny?
No.
So when I was in the law firm, when I was in my early 20s, it really flowed over into there. And I did well because I was very meticulous. My attention to detail was very good. But I got very, very stuck in this need for everything to be perfect all of the time. And then when I started my own business, it did not serve me well because procrastination came in. As we know, the conditioned self is just so looking for a way out of us reaching our dreams, of us getting to that next step. And so the conditioned self, my conditioned self, would constantly have, you know, be saying to me, that's not good enough to be out there, or that, or if I had a product or a course or a program or something like that, I just wasn't launching anything. Like, there were years that I ran a business and I didn't launch a thing. And a lot of that was to do with this idea that it needed to be perfect. So something that you guys could do today is just to throw away the need for anything to be perfect just for a day. Tomorrow you can pick up the perfectionism again if you want to, but just for today, just throw everything out of the window. And it is amazing how much our emotional state is triggered by this need to be perfect, for this need for everything to be perfect and to, you know, hi, how you going? Hey, can't get Facebook Live. Rebecca, are we still good? Just give me a thumbs up in the comments if we are still good. And so I want you guys to just like throw that away today and just say, you know what, no matter what happens. So whether you're preparing food, if you're getting dressed, if you are, you know, have a project that you're currently working on, and or maybe you're doing something and you're thinking it's not ready yet, you know, it needs to be perfect. I encourage you just for today to just get it out, just throw it out there, just do it anyway. If you have a post that you're writing, make it imperfect and just send it on out. There's this beautiful saying that I love, and it's that people will take real over perfect any day of the week. And when we think about like being in our authentic self and people showing up authentically in life, like that's what we're craving. We are wired for human connection. We are wired to want the rawness in life. And so I'm here today just encouraging you to show up in the raw, to show up in the wildness, like no makeup. I think I did brush my hair like early this morning, but you know, just let's bring all the authenticity out today. And in a mindful leader, I think that's what they do, right? Don't need to be perfect. Yes, absolutely. And I think in a mindful leader, or definitely like the ones that we really look up to, this is what they do. They show up so real. And so how are you going to be imperfect? How are you going to be imperfect today? Just go ahead and pop that into the comments. How will it be? Will you show up on a Facebook Live with your son who hurts his head and just take a moment? What are you going to do that's just going to be, you know, you in your authenticity, you in the raw, you just, you know, just being you. And so I think that's something that mindful leaders do, is that they don't care as much what people think. They are not constantly, consistently trying to show up as something that they're not. And so what can you do today? What Small thing, big thing. How can you just show up a little more imperfectly perfect, right? Because we want the real you, and people want to see the real you. So maybe it means that you're being a little bit more fun. You can show your silly side a little bit more. And if you're already doing that, I encourage you and I'm inviting you to take it a step further today. Take it another level. How can you show up even more raw in what you're doing? All right, guys. So pop those into the comments. I would absolutely love to hear. But making peace with perfection is such a key part of all of this, I think. Like, this is really something that mindful leaders do so well. And they tend to do well because of that, because they have this beautiful ability to just show up, you know? Yeah. Okay, and then the next way, or the next thing that mindful leaders might do a little bit differently to other people is and this just follows on really, they really know how to embrace vulnerability. So, and this is one thing that I had to learn, like this was learned behavior for me. This did not come naturally for me. Being really vulnerable, sharing, really intimate things about my life, about myself. You guys know, like, this is a very safe group, and I do that. There's a reason for that. We're very, very careful with who we choose to come in and stay in this group. And I do that on purpose because I want you guys to have this beautiful, safe space for you to be able to open up, to really get vulnerable and do the work, do the healing work, do the, really the inner work that needs to be done to get you to the next level. And so something that we talked about last week a little bit too is trust. And so trust in, whether it is this support group for you, trusting in the Rise group and the beautiful community in here that we have you, we're holding you, that you can get vulnerable, that you can do the work. Then trusting also in yourself. We touched on this yesterday as well, that you are going to show up for you, right? Day in, day out, all the time. And then we had a little joke about this last week, because it was like, well, sometimes I ask myself, can I trust you, Marissa? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm showing up for me like a good 7, 8 out of 10 right now. And then at other times I'm not. I might not be doing the things that I know are really going to serve me. And so this also comes back to these morning routines, these evening routines, and really having things in place that are going to support you and your own needs first, so that when you're giving, you're just giving from this like overflow. Because I know so many of you have huge hearts, you're heart-led women, you are leading the way, you're innovative, you are, really stepping up in a bigger way in your own life. And so it's really important that we have this base level of trust within ourselves. And I think that's something that great mindful leaders know how to do. They really know how to support themselves first and foremost and give themselves that foundation to be able to move. Because otherwise what happens is we burn out, we spin out. And you can imagine how many leaders there are in the world and how many of them are spinning out and burning out constantly. And so what that does is it doesn't allow us to show up consistently. It doesn't allow us to be all that we really came here to be. And so, again, just like, how can you show up? This is another little invitation today. How can you show up to the next level in trust for yourself? So what do you need to do that you haven't been doing? What do you need to do today to show yourself, hey, I've got your back. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing for you. It doesn't matter how much anybody else loves you. I freaking love you, and I have your back 100%. So what is it that you need to do for you? I know a couple nights ago I was thinking to myself, I'm really only like trust on the trust scale. I feel like I'm really only at about a 4 or 5 at the moment, because I hadn't been showing up for myself as I knew that I needed to. So I really got on that like the last couple of days. And I've been really showing up to the point of, taking some time for myself when I need it, making sure that I'm getting good exercise. Ocean and I went for a huge, big nature walk on Sunday and really just gave back what I needed, for me. And then I'm not looking around so much saying to my husband, like, you need to support me more, or, that anyone, I don't need any of that sort of external and I call it kind of validation, right? Because it's not really support if our conditioned self is like pulling in other people to have our own needs met. So how can you find this safety, this trust within yourself so that you can just like go for gold? You can just keep going in your life, keep going on your path. And I think that's something that mindful leaders do very, very well, is that they show up for themselves and they put themselves first. And of course, other people have needs. Like little Ocean just hit his head before. I'm not going to say, sorry, I'm on a call. But I put me first a lot of the time. And that was something on January the 1st that I made a decision to do. And we really want to normalize this. We want to big up our fellow beautiful, mindful leaders and say, good on you for taking care of you. So, hi Heather, how are you? So happy to see you here. Yes. And so on you feel safe and trust your beautiful community rise. That is awesome, because we work so hard to make sure that this is a safe space for you. So Heather is a beautiful mindful leader as well. She just does such beautiful, amazing work. And so Heather really knows how to show up and do the trust work. She really knows how to, put herself first so that she can show up for others. And she shows up for others in such an amazing way. And so we really want to think about today, what do I need to do to get me to that level where I can share from that overflow? So that's something that I think mindful leaders do really, really well. So pop it into the comments. What are you going to do today that's going to really get your personal trust level to that next level too? Yes, you feel safe. Not been a perfect person, but I'm me every day. I'm showing up no matter what. And there's so much perfection in that, Sharon. There's so much perfection in that. Awesome. Yes. And then the last thing that mindful leaders do that might be a little bit different to others is, and you guys all know this, but they do the work, they do the work. So whether that is releasing trauma from the past, and we talked about trauma last week and how trauma is not always like this great big thing, this life experience that happens to you, and then you're, left with all this messy stuff inside that needs to be fixed. Trauma is something that happens to all of us, and especially as children, when we have parents that are either in their conditioned selves because they're also managing life, right? And so we really want to take ownership and say, I'll do the work, And I think that's something that mindful leaders do really well, is that they come back to self, they ask what needs to be done, they do the work, they shift, they grow, and they are 100% committed to that growth. And I know for myself, like I found my way into like my divine purpose only a few years ago, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago maybe. But I can remember for the life of me that I was just so committed to self-development to the point that I wouldn't even read a fiction book. I don't think I've read more than like 2 or 3 fiction books. Not that there's anything wrong with fiction books, but the commitment that I made to myself at a very, very young age was huge. And I just said, I will do whatever it takes for me to, open up, to grow, to really experience the fullness of this life. And there have been times where I haven't really done, what I see in my eyes as enough or much, or But then for the most part, there's been like this dedication to the game. And I think that's something that mindful leaders do differently to other leaders, is that they are not only in it for the long run in terms of success, whatever that might look like to you, but they're in it for the long haul within themselves, like within that personal growth and development. They really want that stuff. And that's something that all of you have and all of my clients have. You show up wanting more. You show up ready to do the work, ready to crack open, ready for more. And there's so much power in that. And so a question for you today could be just that. What can I do today that's really going to maybe take me a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but that's going to crack me open a little bit more and help me grow a little bit more? And so it might just be doing something, a little more courageous, or it may be going and doing that healing meditation that you know that you need to do, or giving yourself the time and space to even go within and find out what needs to be done. So, and then, I guess there's a bonus one as well. In the mindful leaders that I know, they definitely approach every day with this sense of curiosity and fun. So like, how can I show up in my authentic self more and more and more? How much fun am I having? And mindful leaders, many of the mindful leaders that I know, even use that as a scale to how well they're doing in life, in business, in their own, personal successes, is how much fun am I having? Because that's a really good indication of how much I'm living in my authentic self as well. Yes, needing to take ownership of our lives and lifestyles. Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, this is short and sweet today. We have some very exciting news coming out in terms of some meditations that we have coming for you. I'm very, very excited to share that with you. We also have the new 5-day workshop coming up toward the end of the month. So look out for that. We are going to be sharing details on that shortly. And this is a new fun and exciting 5-day workshop because it actually has a theme to it. And I'm going to get you guys to show up in different ways for every day of the workshop. I'm really excited for this one. And so for this week, these are the things that you could, really focus on. Just a couple of these little tools in here, and really getting vulnerable, losing that imperfection, asking yourself about the trust scale. How am I showing up for myself on a scale of 1 to 10? And all of these things are going to help you to live and breathe more in your authentic self. And that's really where we want to be as mindful leaders, showing people the way. And you guys are all such bright lights, and you're already guiding people to live their best lives because you are so dedicated to that. So I love you. I take my hat off to you. I bow to you. You guys are amazing. You are already beautiful, mindful leaders. We are now just talking about how we can take that to the next level. I love you. Have an amazing day. Thank you for sharing my son and all the raw and all the imperfection with us today. And I'll see you in the group. Okay, bye.